Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the next NSL live talk, and the two masqueraded people here, properly as it has to be, are myself, Kurt Gable, and Andrew Starr.
That's right. We're getting ready to rob the pro shop.
Yeah, new interview, new golfing place, but I'm gonna distance myself again, as I've done it before. So I go behind the camera, and then only will be speaking, and then you can take your mask off because I'll be far away. So that will be a little more convenient.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, see you in a minute. Right, ladies and gentlemen, again, now I am 6 feet away from Mr. Andrew Starr. I'm sorry that you have to sit there lonely and by yourself.
I know. I don't know what to do without you next to me. No, I gotta talk through you here.
Last time we did it, we had a few people with us, right? The very last time
we were out at Legacy Golf Links, and we were both in frame, and we were social distancing, but one of us kept creeping out of frame because we were creeping farther and farther apart. So
yeah, we did social distance already by then. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So we were already into that.
So which means it was kind of in March, April.
Yeah, March
maybe?
or April. Yeah.
Yeah. And before that, we had lovely Jennifer with us, and Jesse, I remember, and Gary too.
Yeah, we did a couple down in Z Hills with the team from Qatar was there, and so yeah, we had a round table with the coaches, and then we with Jen and Jesse and I.
Time's going by so quickly, amazing.
Yeah.
So let's just pick the last one. Where we were at the Legends, or the other golf. You're playing golf every day, right?
Well, not anymore. Now we're training. But back when we were talking then, yeah, the Golden Knights had stood down operations, and so we were teleworking. So it kind of allowed me to do all my Army work, via the computer in the morning, and then luckily golf was one of the sanctioned activities, so I would kind of sneak out into the course in the afternoon. But we've since returned back to training, kind of mostly full-time in the beginning or middle of June, and we've been jumping in some capacity since then.
And what else can you do, in a crisis like this? You're outside, you're isolating yourself, being on the golf course, there's absolutely no...
But the way I play golf, it's the ultimate social distancing event, because I'm usually 100 yards away from everybody who's in the fairway. So I have no problem there, yeah.
Same boat. So the two of us together, we can never get close to each other. All right, so yes. So what is going on? What has happened ever since? I mean, the Golden Knights, or let's say the U.S. Army Golden Knights team, is a competition team.
Yeah.
There's no competition any longer.
Yeah, we're still waiting to hear back what the official word from the USPA is on the Nationals. But we started with a slow progression. I think last time we talked, we were maybe looking at doing some currency jumps and things like that, just to make sure we don't lose currency, and we were able to ease back into full training. So we kind of started there in June. We would kind of train 1 day a week so that we would be on the airplane by ourselves and not with the other team. So we're kind of social distancing from the other team, and that gave our aviators a chance to sanitize the airplanes when it came back to Pope Army Airfield there. And then we've been taking incremental steps forward. So we started with 4-way because we would keep fewer people in the airplane, and then we kind of graduated to 8-way, and we're still kind of maintaining some rules there. And so really we've been training as much as we can in some kind of capacity, 4-way or 8-way, based on who we had at the time with virus mitigation, like who we could bring to work in order to mitigate the virus, and then honestly too, like the normal summertime kind of wear and tear injuries too, the normal sprains and sinus issues and things like that. We don't have an alternate this year, so whenever somebody's down for some kind of acute illness or injury, then we can kind of shift into 4-way mode and do some 4-way.
8-way is tough. That's one of the toughest things in 8-way, right? I mean, keeping a healthy and happy team together for a longer time period.
Keeping a healthy, and I think we're good on the happy part. we've always been pretty good on the happy part, but
Yeah.
yeah, keeping everybody healthy. We had a pretty, we would augment a lot of our training in the wind tunnel, and as we kind of learned some four-way and kind of progress an eight-way in the wind tunnel, we kind of run into the same stuff. You get kicked in the head, maybe you're down for a day or two, or things like that. So when you don't have an alternate, it's very tough because you need all 9 players, and you need them chomping at the bit, and so it's hard to keep if it's hard to keep a 4-way team rolling. It's doubly hard to keep an 8-way team rolling when there's nobody waiting in the wings to step up and keep the team training.
Yeah, if you look at all the 8-way teams, look at the Russians. Andrei Barabash broke his leg, so off, for how long? So then the French team, the recent developments, team members leaving, coach comes in, so lineup changes, XP8, Michel couldn't jump because an ear infection, Drew had to go for rhythm training, Matt had a hip surgery.
Yeah.
It's tough to keep an 8-way team.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon. I think a lot of teams go through that. And where the Golden Knights are, we're blessed and we're a little cursed because, when we have a guy that can't jump, unlike XP8, we can't just call somebody and bring them in. It's got to be a soldier. It's got to be a member of the Golden Knights. And that's one of the things that we're kind of combating unit-wide. We're all a little short on parachutists on the Golden Knights. A tandem team doesn't have as many guys as they would like, and the demonstration teams are running a little thin too. So we're really looking for recruits. We want to make Golden Knights. So if you're out there and you're thinking about the military and you're skydiving, come to the parachute team.
That's good advertising. I know you're not talking to me because I'm a little bit off the age limit there by now, probably.
I wouldn't believe it, but maybe a year.
I would love to do it, though. But he's talking to you guys, to you
That's right.
who are watching this.
We're looking for highly motivated, independent operators to come be Golden Knights. So
yeah, and it's a fun job if you don't have to go to combat too often. I hear that. I mean, the Hayabusa guys, they are very honest with that. They say they hardly have anything else to do. All they're really doing is training. And I do remember that the Golden Knights in the past were out and off for combat and for missions and all kind of that. Is that still the case?
It's still, it's still the case. I mean, it's and largely it's because it's it's a personal point that a lot of us, we've either served in a combat role and then came to the team, or guys like me who came to the team very young. It was one of my first assignments, and I've been with the Golden Knights for 13 years. It's one of those things where it's it's like, okay, I'm a Golden Knight, but I'm also a soldier. I enlisted to be a soldier first, and then a Golden Knight. So for a lot of us, we would take voluntary assignments, to go over there for 4 to 6 months, whatever theater, would need a job that we had and fulfill that role. And the 8-way team last did it in 2010. They went to Iraq over the Christmas period so that they could relieve some guys that could go home for Christmas, and the 8-way team kind of took their administrative jobs over in Iraq while they kind of let some guys get some rest.
So that is another thing that you have, compared to the other 8-way teams. There could be, a mission, but right now the world is pretty peaceful except for the Corona war, the war on Corona.
Yeah.
So there's not much you have on duties on the war on Corona, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's business as usual for us, and it has been for a long time. We're looking forward to the next meet. We're training for the next meet. We're trying to get better individually, trying to get better as a team. And that's kind of what we do on the competition section for the team.
So let's talk about a little bit about that stuff, actually, the competition and training and all that. We really don't have a lot of competition right now. I feel that every day, obviously, because usually I'm posting scores and videos and all that. And there's been one national championship this year so far, and the summer is almost over, which was in Norway.
Really?
And nobody else has one. France just postponed it, so it was supposed to be in July, and now it's in August. And nobody knows whether it will take place or not. And many others are cancelled. USPA nationals, we don't know yet, right? Because
I think there's still, I want to say August 1st was when they were trying to make a decision
August 1st.
by August 1st. So we're creeping up on it. But Yeah, we had a very packed schedule. I know I went to the Win Games with Rhythm. That was going to kind of kick off my year, going to the Win Games, and we were able to get that in. But then on top of that, the 8-way team was going to go to, was it Norway for the World Cup, or we were going to go to the World Cup this year?
Indoor World Cup,
The
outdoor World Cup.
Indoor was Belgium. Belgium.
It was supposed to be in Belgium. Yeah, that's all cancelled.
And then the outdoor World
Outdoor
Cup
was Norway. Was
we
it
were going
this
to do
year?
both. Yes, we were going to do the Indoor World Cup Golden Knights 4-way.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to try and do the Outdoor World Cup Golden Knights 8-way. And then we were going to go to CISM, which is the military competition there. That was going to be in Austria, and this was all by I think April or May. We were planning to do all
That
this.
was after the Shamrock was
It was
cancelled.
after. Yeah, it was after the Shamrock. Yeah, that's right. And the Shamrock was going to kind of jumpstart all that off. You know? And then Rhythm, we were going to try and get one, if not two, training camps in Russia and Tenay, and then the World Meet. Starting. Potentially in 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's not happening. So.
And that would have been in August. And to the USPA nationals, you have travel restrictions. I mean, you are, as far as I know, you can leave the headquarters 150, 200 miles. I don't know what it currently is.
Yeah, and so that's eased off a little bit. When we
Okay.
were first in kind of mitigation protocol, we didn't leave 50 miles from the installation. 50 miles.
50 miles.
Yeah, that was kind of the standard. Since then, we've gone back to normal as far as how far, and we always have a standard radius that we can be from the base, and it's pretty lenient. And outside that, you just ask for permission. It's no big deal. So things have kind of gone back to normal as far as our personal lives and the rules that we abide by as soldiers. That's kind of the same now. We're just taking extra precautionary measures when we train. We're doing things like booking a whole half hour of wind tunnel time instead of 15 minutes, so that we know that we're sharing it with each other. Really only sticking to Golden Knight aircraft and not kind of going out to different drop zones and things like that. So we're just doing some internal procedures, making sure that we clean our training facility pretty good every day, because we still are bringing Army tandem passengers in and things like that. So.
Okay. Well, let's talk about a little bit of the athletic part, the stuff that we actually like to do, and not the stuff that is in our way to do the things that we like to do. How is 4-way training, 8-way training going? I remember when we were talking with Jesse and Jen, you had new ideas and new concepts and new strategies, how to train, and whatever you have done in the meantime, what were the results of that? Do you see the progression and the difference that you...
Yeah, we do. We had to take a little bit of a left turn there. The plan was, when I was going to go to the World Meet with Rhythm, the plan was for me to be the tail on the Golden Knight 4-way team. So anytime I was training with the Golden Knights 4-way team, I was getting B-slot training. And then we were going to take the Rhythm continuity and move it to the Golden Knights, so I didn't have to learn 2 continuity plans as well. So I was going to kind of get A-slot training with Rhythm, B-slot training with the Golden Knights, and then I was going to be basically the bridge between the Rhythm and Golden Knights continuity. Which was going to be really great. Once everything went down with the timing of the World Meet and I had to step away from Rhythm, we kind of felt ourselves lacking. I didn't get that much time with Rhythm to be able to absorb the entire continuity plan there. So we decided to bring on a coach, and we worked with Sully a little bit. We've been working with Matt Davidson a little bit.
Okay.
We're looking at Airspeed is here in town now. They're kind of spending the summer in XP, so we plan to reach out with members of Airspeed and kind of test the waters in all the coaching realms and see who's a good fit, see the continuity plan that we want to carry on into the future, because now it's not just a stopgap, it's not just a band-aid so that I don't have to learn 2 things. We have the chance to really bring Golden Knights 4-way into the 21st century and kind of revolutionize it so that we are a 4-way contender at nationals from now and years to come. So we're still kind of in that exploratory phase, but we've seen with all the coaches, with Sully and Matt, and the Rhythm stuff that I've brought over, we're starting to see some real gains in that, in both our A lineup, Golden Knights Gold, and our developmental lineup, Golden Knights Black.
But you're not planning a total shift over again like it was in 2
No.
or so where you say, no, 8-way, not any longer, now we're doing
Yeah.
only 4-way? No.
No, the 8-way is still a primary objective. 8-way
Okay.
world meets are still our primary objective. What we found, as we kind of moved into 2019 and we were rebuilding the lineup, and we kind of analyzed what XP had, and the ISR Thunder team that Belgium, that 8-way team that they put together with Hayabusa. We kind of looked at some of the stuff that they were able to do in a very short time, and it really shine the light that we need to be better individual flyers.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Those guys are able to go, they're steeping the learning curve quite a bit just based on their individual skill level. We had a very deep continuity plan and a deep depth of knowledge in 8-way with the Golden Knights, but we want the flying chops to back it up as well. And so 4-way we think is going to be the best way to do that, and it's a benefit of we get to learn basically kind of a new discipline for the Golden Knights. We had let it fall by the wayside as we focused on a decade of excellence in 8-way. So this is the plan for us to get re-vitalized back into 4-way and use that 4-way training plan to become better individual flyers, which will then bleed into better 8-way, better, faster 8-way that is going to be more like 4-way as the future. And XP8's kind of doing that, and the French team is doing that as things get faster and smaller, it becomes a lot more like 4-way, and so I think we're going to see a trend in that direction.
Interesting, but then eventually, and ultimately, like the French team, if you want to win in 8-way, you have to focus once again on in the development phase and for whether it's for skills or for techniques and that stuff. It makes sense, but eventually the French said, our priority is 8-way now. They hardly do any 4-way any longer, and XP8 similar.
Yeah.
Even though they have airspeed still doing 4-way, I mean a few members at least in XP forward.
Yeah, we think, and we're still a very young team, and so we think it's going to be a great tool to bring up our younger members to the point where we can we don't have to split the time so evenly. We can focus on 8-way once the individual skill is built, and we can kind of shift gears pretty easily, and we're not, I think the challenge for airspeed and XP8 is that it's two kind of separate teams. We don't really have that challenge. We can be internal with the decisions on how and what we train, and then we can also share continuity between the A lineup and the developmental lineup.
Yeah, like your situation is almost more similar to France or Russia now, because they are actually they are an entity only. They don't have to pay attention to any 4-way goals. I mean, the French team, now you can't really say that. Have you followed the French situation? Yeah. So the 4-way women team, I think they still want to win in 4-way. So that's interesting. Now they want to win the 8-way, they want to win the 4-way. So that's a special situation there too.
And I think the French women, I mean, they're so good that they have a little bit more freedom of movement to do that. I think they're one of the few teams that can afford to lose some 4-way training because they're not going to lose a lot of ground on the field, in the FAI women category. So I think maybe they have some more bandwidth to be able to maybe step away from 4-way and not be at quite such a deficit in the rest of the field.
It was so far, I think, but now with Clementine stepping out of it, it changes a little bit to the dynamics. They have a new member already with Gail last year, and now Clementine also. They have to replace her, but they have a good replacement, Pamela.
Yeah, and that could shift the landscape completely too. Matt and I, we talked a couple weeks ago. I did his podcast, A Champion's Journey, which is just a wonderful. He's had some fantastic guests on that podcast, and we kind of walked down memory lane, and we kind of recounted each of our lineup changes, on GK8, and how much just changing one person, just pulling one person out and putting one person in, how much that changed the team dynamic, and it made it almost a completely new lineup with new team room dynamics and new atmosphere, and you're talking one body out of 9.
Right. Yeah. Matt.
Yeah.
He's going through some interesting. I hope to speak to him still while he's here. Have you seen? Oh no, I mean, seen definitely not.
I haven't seen him. We spoke on the phone, and he sounds like he's doing well. I mean, but, Matt, he's hard as nails.
Yeah, but Jennifer, you talked to Jennifer, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's taking care of him now.
Yeah, she's taking care of him, but Matt, he's a resilient guy too. So
yeah,
I'm sure Jen has to rein Matt in from maybe doing too much too early than she does have to, feed him chicken soup and pat his head. So
what a story.
Yeah.
Well, he could be the only one. I mean, there are some interesting stories, because I'm sure you talked about this with him. I'm sure that he could be the only one who completes a second decade of excellence, right?
Yeah.
He could win his fifth
consecutive.
Fifth
in a row, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was something that, that was a goal for us that we set out. When we rebuilt the program in 2008, Decade of Excellence was the plan, and we kind of fell short of that in 2010 at the World Meet in Menzalens. So we kind of had to push everything by 2 years, and unfortunately, we fell 2 years short of that. Moving into this 2020 World Meet in Tenay. So I hope, I want Matt to be that guy. I want him to win 5 in a row, and that'll be his 6th World Championship in 8-way. So the first one was 97 in Turkey. So he was always one ahead of us anyway.
And then there's also Kirk, another story. But gosh, there are so many stories. Let's we still have to drink a beer, so we cannot stay here too long. We haven't had a beer yet. That's amazing, actually. It's hot and...
Yeah, I don't think you can finish 18 holes of golf
without drinking a beer. I'm so thirsty.
That's right.
Anyhow, so one thing, we have not talked about it yet. I spaced that in the previous, although I didn't think of the mission that I was on. And it has been such an interesting trip to talk to I started this at the Nationals, to talk to the legends like Kirk, and Matt and everybody who I could get on his nerves or her nerves. The main question, one of the main questions, before I ask you that question directly, let me ask you first, how does it feel now for you, first of all, that you train and you train and you train, but there's not really a competition in sight at this point in time, or you may train for a competition that may take place at some time in the future?
It's tough. It's tough to not have some kind of goal on the horizon, not to have some concrete item on the calendar that you're working towards, right? That puts pressure on you, that creates a sense of urgency as you get closer to that event. It's hard to train that way. And we talked about it a little bit on the golf course. It's when there isn't that thing that's just in the back of your mind, saying, hey, you're going to be tested soon. It's easy to get relaxed, and kind of let the standards fall and not worry about, this or that, or the urgency of training. So for me and for the Golden Knights, I think right now we're moving forward as if Nationals is going to be held, and we're planning for all that, but in the same token, knowing that getting better individually is a goal that we can really focus on no matter what's on the calendar. Whether the calendar is a blank slate, or it's just chock full of meets like it was supposed to be at the beginning of the year. Doing some honest introspection and identifying your weak points and neutralizing those weak points is something that you can always do no matter what. And I think that's kind of what we're working towards right now, is building the individual skill, becoming better competitors, better teammates, better soldiers, better skydivers, in any way, shape, or form that we can do that. And that's kind of how we're filling the uncertainty, that is kind of created.
So the direct question was to everybody, why do you think that teams and competitors should attend meets as often and as much as possible? That was the question of the mission. So you can, now it's kind of difficult to ask that question now, because I don't have much. I'm a competition guy, obviously, national, skydiving, blah, blah. So I'm reporting, I'm organizing competition so people can go somewhere. I have nothing. So asking this question at this point in time is kind of a mute question, but let's say if there were as many competitions every weekend and so forth, then the question would be, why should teams and competitors, anybody, attend meets as often as possible?
So I think in that question there's an underlying I think there's a root question in that too, which is why do teams and competitors compete?
Why do birds
why do you
sing?
compete, period? And for me, that's the test. It's the test against yourself. It's the test against your competition. It's the test against the field. And it's the reason that we do what we do. There's no point in training. And there's no point in wearing your body out and grinding through everything if you're not going to test yourself and you're not going to test your team. And so I think when you kind of tie that back to why should you compete as often as you can, the more times you can test yourself, the more resiliency you're going to build in that process, the more experience you're going to become. Every time you do a round one, because you can't simulate a round one in training, every time you put another round one under your belt and you stress yourself to the point of no return, or to the maximum stress point that is round one, it becomes a little easier, and you become a little calmer, and it becomes a little bit more like inside baseball. You know how your body's going to react, what kind of mental preparation you need, how you're going to perform, and that's something that's that's just absolutely huge. As a competitor, I mean, when we went to the Win Games with Rhythm, I don't know if we talked about this, but I'd kind of talked to the Golden Knights about it. My last practice day was not very good. I kind of flubbed some stuff.
I remember that.
Yeah, I just didn't really do that great, and we went back, and I told the guys, I was like, hey, don't worry, I know how to compete. I know what round one feels like. Don't worry. And obviously, we didn't do as well as we had hoped to do, but we did
extremely well.
We did pretty good for what we were.
Yeah. Everybody was impressed.
And I think that's a direct result of how many times, we, just as individual competitors, had tested ourselves, stressed ourselves, and built a procedure to handle, that stress.
Drew, that is amazing. Because you're touching that topic, on this topic. The follow-up question after that, main question has always been, what does round number one play in this game? And you got to this right away. Always have, I swear, I didn't prepare Andrew Starr for this thing. He came up with that all by himself. Round one.
Round one.
So let's talk a little bit more about round one.
So I mean, I think everybody's got a little bit different of a process. You can look at the Craig Girards of the world, who are, it's like Tom Brady, who took a nap in the locker room before his first Super Bowl and went out and won. Like that's Craig. He's just zen and at peace and ready, and that works great, works great for a lot of guys. I'm a more nervous guy. I've got some nerves behind it.
You're not alone.
A little, I know. That's, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I don't think I've went into a round one, even on like an NSL meet, where it wasn't a little bit like, man, I'm gonna throw up.
Everybody say, let's say 99.9%. Everybody except for Craig Girard,
maybe,
and Brady.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's stressful as all hell, but it's good, because that stress is coming from a place of making sure you're mentally prepared, making sure you're physically prepared. But more than that, I think it's making sure that you're going to do the work your teammates expect you to do, right? Because when we're a part of a competition team, that's really the foundation to the pyramid is I know as a member of an 8-way team that the other 8 people, the 7 slot guys and the videographer, can count on me to do what needs to be done, and I'm going to count on them to do what needs to be done. And I think that's a lot of where the apprehension and the stress comes from is, we've all worked so long and so hard, and we stood for this cause, and we are going to, give ourselves in service to this cause. I want to make sure that I'm doing them justice in round one, and that they're going to get the best performance possible out of me. I think it's more about that, and less about, what is my competition going to do? What is the scoreboard going to say? Because all that stuff is predetermined. The scores, those have been written, they just haven't come out, but those have been written long before anybody ever showed up, to register and got a gear check. Those scores were predetermined, and that's all based on the work that you did throughout the course of the year. But the nerves for me come from, knowing that I can't let my teammates down.
So let's get more into the details of it because it's so interesting. What exactly, at first, when exactly is it coming? Like it's not coming on the takeoff. I mean, takeoff of the jump plane round one at the World Championship. Takeoff is already a little bit, no, it's a little bit different than takeoff for a training jump, but it all begins basically on jump run, right? That's when things change somehow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. For me, the normal drop zone procedures are all pretty good. I think maybe for me it starts in the loading area.
Okay.
Is where I get a little bit of it, and it starts in the loading area because now it's real. Now I've got a rig on. It's not just theory. We're not on creepers anymore.
Your opponents are there.
Yeah, we're there with another team. You can see the preparation, and you can see the kind of the calm that starts to work over your teammates too. Or you can see that they've gone on to their individual procedures to deal with the stress, so that you get a small amount of it there in the loading area, and then takeoff. You're going through your normal stuff. That's almost like a training jump. The door closes, the engine's throttle up, helmets on, seatbelts buckled. You do your first couple page walkthrough or whatever. That's my sequences, couple pages. Usually the exit and the page, on takeoff. And then you're at 1,000 feet and you're getting situated, and that's kind of business as usual. But then around 3,000 to 4,000 feet, like all that shuffle stops, and then the airplane is calm and quiet again. And then you're alone with your thoughts, and that's where self-doubt can really creep in, because you've got 3,000 feet to about 10,000 feet before you turn on jump run, that it's just you. You're just alone with your thoughts, And you might lean over to your piece partner and say, hey, don't forget this on that, don't forget to give me a little hip on the 18 build or something like that. Whatever note you guys had identified on creepers. But really that right there, 3,000 feet to 10,000 feet, if you haven't built mental toughness, if you haven't built that procedure to deal with the stress of round one, that's where it can kind of all come off the wheels. Because once you turn on jump run and you do your gear checks and you get your pin check and you do your handshake, everything's kind of normal there. And then as the door comes open, you do your breaths, and that's when, for me, like the calm comes in. That's when I got this. It's time to go to work. I do a couple handshakes with the guys that I'm around. I make sure I look into a couple key people's eyes, and then the face shield goes down, and I put it all out of my mind. Once the face shield goes down, I'm ready to climb out, and now it's nothing but the sequence. Nothing but the task at hand. There's no room for nerves or thoughts or anything like that once you climb out of the airplane.
Yeah, that's climbing out the airplane. That's a point for me where everything goes calm.
Yeah.
But before that, I remember that when jump run comes, so the door it gets close to door opening. That's when my stomach goes crazy, goes nuts, or but as soon as it becomes real after that, so I guess that's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and I think the one thing that might be the same is, once you step off the airplane, it, however much training that you've done or sunk into it, like it should kick in at that point, and you're just relying on the pictures and the nuances and the muscle memory and the continuity that you've built at that point.
And you can trust that, but you can trust it only if you have experienced so many round ones.
Yeah,
right?
You have to trust it, right? You have to trust it. You have to turn yourself over to it. And Kurt Eisenbarger was really good at it. He was another one of those cool as a cucumber guys, who would you could see he was just working on his breathing. In the last couple, he was calm. His heart rate was in a good place. And then, big shake, ready, set, go, and it's off to the races, right? And after that, it's all just just the institutional knowledge that you've built over a course of however long.
Results of the trainings are kicking in eventually. The muscle memory and all the good stuff that you're training for.
Yeah.
For that round one.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's almost I can't think of the word, but it's at that point it's in your DNA.
Yes. Do Starr. That was a lot of good stuff.
Well, I'm glad we could get together again. I'm glad we could hit the links and
I have to say that I enjoy, well, let me say, phrase it a little bit differently. I think we are better on camera here talking than we are on the golf course.
I would agree with that. I think we're both better skydivers than we are golfers, for sure.
Well, that for sure, yeah. I'm hoping I'm asking you some good questions, but I know that your answers and explanations are great. So
well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to sit down and talk with the NSL.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much. Good luck with everything. Good luck to all of us.
Thank you.
To get out of this healthy and happy and all that.
Absolutely.
Thanks, too.